Well, well, well. It looks like the day's finally upon us. We've been waiting for the last 2 years, and here we are. PlayStation 5. I can't believe it's taken this long. Or at least that's what I'd want you to think. Believe it or not, I actually think that the PlayStation 5 should have waited another year or two. Especially for reasons that I'll mention shortly. This is just going to be a quick video where I explain which games are pretty likely to show up at this upcoming Sony press conference, and some stuff that I just want to end up being in the show. It'd be nice to see, you know? So, right off the bat here, this is an interesting time in Sony's history, because you see, the PlayStation 4 was very, very successful in every way. Some might even say that it won the console war this generation, but we won't get into that. But the interesting part of it, though, at this particular time, is that Death Stranding got released just recently, which was like one of the biggest games that they were hyping up for the last 4 years or something. And on top of that, 2 out of Sony's biggest studio partners are releasing games this year in the form of The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. And I have no idea if they're going to be good, because, you know, there's tons of rumors about Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. I wasn't very impressed by it, honestly. It kind of looked like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which I really like that game, but it is like 10 years old by now, so it's a little odd to be compared to that at this point, but that's exactly what it looked like. But I'm definitely going to play it just to see whether it impresses me. I definitely love the studio. They're the ones behind the Infamous series and Sly Cooper. I have no idea how that transitions into a ninja game. Like, yes, Sly Cooper was sort of ninja-like, but he didn't have much combat, and he was mostly just jumping around on wires and whatnot. So we'll see how that works out. As for the PlayStation 5's upcoming games, since those studios are probably at least 3 years out from their next title, it's kind of limited what the PlayStation 5's starting lineup will be able to be. But based on what I've been able to see from what the last games were, and the studios that Sony has in their possession, or whatever you want to call it, I would say Gran Turismo. We're going to see that. That's obvious. That's actually kind of late. But I would assume that maybe they decided to wait to release that because Unreal Engine 4 got shown off like 5 years ago, and so they had to get used to using that engine. So we'll see. That's my guess, though. Actually, I'm certain that Gran Turismo is going to be shown off, for better or worse. So I'm not very interested. The next one, God of War 2. That's guaranteed. That's just a guarantee. I don't think it'll be in release window. I think it'll be like next summer at best. We'll see. That's very questionable, especially since they definitely took so much time to make the first game. But we'll see how much of an open world the next game is going to be. I kind of feel like they shouldn't have much of an open world, but people really liked it last time, so I'm sure that they'll have it for the second one. The next game in the lineup is Spider-Man 2. Though I don't think it will be shown, and it will definitely not be released this year. I think that they'll at least acknowledge that it's definitely going to be on the PlayStation 5, and And that's the problem. When it comes to the release lineup, like if we're talking about November till June of next year, I think that they can have quite a lot of variety of games to show off. But again, that June mark is where I feel like they'll end up putting like two or three big games right there in the June area, but then they'll probably end up delaying at least two of them, if not all of them, because again, they're just very desperate to put all those games right in that release window. And like I said, I don't think the PlayStation 5 should have released this year. It just didn't kind of line up with the rest of the PlayStation studios and how their development cycles were going. The next game that I expect will be kind of like the new Knack, or like a Little Big Planet type of game for the kids. I have no idea what that would be. I would assume it's going to be a different franchise, just because Knack didn't really do that well, and Little Big Planet seems to be kind of over. And maybe it'll be something a little more graphics impressive, because kids especially like to see good graphics. Little Big Planet, like, it looked good, but it was so zoomed out, it never really looked that impressive. Like, close up it looked great, but again, they hardly ever showed it close up. And when it comes to Knack, it was technically impressive, but not stylistically impressive. I think this time it's going to be stylistically impressive. Maybe it'll just be like a action game with sword type of thing, like just kind of generic sounding, I know, but I think that'll be what they'll go with. Otherwise, the only other choice would be like shooter, battle royale. It does seem like a lot of kids are into that nowadays, so it seems possible, maybe even likely. It's very hard to predict, and I have no idea what studio would even work on it. I think it would just be like an internal Sony studio, because they can work on like 2 or 3, maybe more games at the same time. Like, obviously they're the ones that work on God of War, so I think that they'll have a few others that they're working on. The next game I expect is an unknown game from Project Siren. Project Siren's the creators of Gravity Rush, which was, I think, really, really great, and I think a lot of people really liked it. In fact, that could be the kids' game to some extent, because that one was basically an action-adventure in an open world, and it did look pretty impressive, stylistically and graphically, in my opinion. So who knows, maybe they'll be the ones that tackled a game for the kids at age 13 or under. Gravity Rush was kind of violent at times, but for the most part, I'd say it was very much kid-friendly and adult-friendly too. I mean, it was just great for all ages. And Gravity Rush Team Siren hasn't done anything in about 4 years in about 4 years, which is when Gravity Rush 2 got released. I don't expect another Gravity Rush game though, because after 2, it seemed like they conclusively finished that world in every way. They explored everything that they possibly could have. They could maybe go further, but I really doubt it. Like, really, really doubt it. The final thing that I expect to see is maybe some Tales of Arise gameplay footage, since it uses Unreal Engine 4, but it'd have to look really crazy impressive for Sony to show an anime-style video game in a conference that's about next-gen graphics. But again, it's on Unreal Engine 4, so I don't see any reason why they might not show it. Of course, the downside is that Tales of Arise isn't PlayStation exclusive, but I don't think that they're just gonna keep to only exclusive games. Who knows? Maybe they'll even go ahead and show some Assassin's Creed Valhalla gameplay. Now, this is an interesting thing that I came up with just recently, very, very recently, today, in fact. I fully expect to see a trailer for the next-gen Sonic the Hedgehog game. The funny part about that is that Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 was a release game for the PlayStation 3, and it is known for being horrifically awful. But the funny thing is that it's been quite a few years now since the last Sonic game. It wasn't great. I know that for sure. It was very bad. But they definitely had a lot more years to work on it. They even skipped over last year, which was supposed to be, I believe, the 20th year anniversary. So I'd be surprised if Sonic isn't announced. Like, it just seems like everything's lining up. And I feel like Sonic was always a bigger selling game on the PlayStation than on Xbox. Again, like, in general, PlayStation kind of works with an age range around everything. I know that might seem like obvious because this is supposed to be like a family entertainment system, but like Sony's the one that's staying with that objective versus you go and look at Nintendo and yeah, technically it's for all ages, but there's very little that anybody over like 30 is gonna really be interested in, like, unless they just like the games they liked when they were kids, you know, the Zeldas, the Marios. But if you didn't grow up on those, I kind of doubt that you get into it when you're older, and they don't really have anything else for anybody in that age range. Again, like, serious storytelling, not really intense gameplay. Well, they do have it Bayonetta 3 coming out at some point, but I mean, that's literally the only thing, so it's not very much of a breadth of variety when it comes to Nintendo system. Now you look at Microsoft, they do, for the most part, adhere to every age group, but I would say they focus a lot more on teens in general. There's definitely some adult stuff. I mean, Halo's pretty adult, I'll give credit for that. And they've got Forza, which is very adult-oriented in my opinion. I mean, even kids can get into that too. It's a car game, but still. But when it comes to the really, really young kids, I don't think Microsoft really has that much for them. It mostly seems like that age group ends up getting the shooters, and the best they got is like Ori and the Blind Forest, which I think I've kind of heard that it's kind of a hard game, so I don't know if a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old would be able to have a lot of fun with Ori and the Blind Forest, but whatever. Either way, I'm just saying that Sonic the Hedgehog, this was all about Sonic, Sonic the Hedgehog is very much for every age group, but also you can just kind of use it to market toward younger kids, and I think that that's what it's going to be kind of used for here. I just hope it's not going to be rushed, that's all. I really am hoping for it to be like Sonic the Hedgehog Adventure, I should say. I'm really hoping it's going to be Sonic Adventure 3 with, you know, open world. It's kind of funny because a lot of game journalists like to act as if, oh, well, every Sonic game has some open world stuff to it, or the open world stuff makes it bad or something. And it's like, no. Ever since Sonic Adventure 2, they haven't had a good open world. Like, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006, it was almost good, but then, yeah, graphically it's just not there, and of course loading screens. But like the basic idea wasn't too bad, but it was very obvious that the open world ideas behind it were very unimportant. Like, they literally could have skipped stage to stage, and it would have been the same game, just a lot less annoying. And then after that, they had Sonic Unleashed, which wasn't bad, but very little open world. Again, these were very, very small spaces. And it's like, well, again, open world would improve Sonic because you can have him run around and maybe play with, objects or talk to his friends and stuff like that. I mean, I'm really underselling how good Sonic Adventure is. One, I should say, because Sonic Adventure 2 doesn't have open world. I just remember. I forget about that because it just feels like a world very well. But Sonic Adventure 1, it wasn't like crazy big, but compared to nowadays, like it just felt really good. Plenty of places to explore, but there were multiple characters that you could play as, so maybe that's going to be like a really key thing that they might reintroduce. It'd be nice to see, but I really do expect Sonic the Hedgehog to have a game this year and to be a release game, a premiere release game. Now, here's two games that I consider hopefuls but doubtfuls. We got Bloodborne 2, which I know very unlikely just because the developer isn't really interested in doing console exclusives anymore, and they're pretty full and they're pretty busy on working on the games that they're working on right now. Though, to be fair, I'm just guessing because we only know about one game that they're working on, and they've been working on that one for seemingly 4 years maybe. So I don't know if that's going to come out this year. I really doubt it, but next spring, pretty likely, I'd say. But they definitely would be working on an extra 1 or 2 games, possibly. So it's possible that they might surprise everybody with a new game in this press conference. But again, doubtful. Now, the other one I'm hoping for is remakes for Persona 3 and Persona 4. Those are long shots, partly because Atlus is very bad when it comes to release schedule. Persona 5 took way too long to come out, and then on top of that, Royal took 2 years to come out, I believe, even though they don't seem to have added that much. It's a good amount, but it's not really 2 years worth of what you'd expect. But to be fair, I haven't beat the game yet. I'm sure that there's going to be a bit more, but a 2 year update, you'd expect quite a bit more. That's all I'm saying. Like The Witcher expansion type stuff. With how big the world would be that they'd add, and with the amount of mechanics that they'd add, which they mostly just added one area with like 3 mini-game type stuff, and they added like 3 or 4 characters or something. Yeah, so I'm not really hopeful for... I'm not actually that hopeful for Persona 3 and Persona 4 remakes, but I'm far more doubtful. I'm so doubtful. But I think that they could really pop if they could at least maybe show a trailer, just hinting at it. Which, to be fair, that's definitely what Atlus is good at. They're good at showing trailers off really early. Just look at the first Persona 5 trailer. I think that got shown off 3 years before the game got released. And then on top of that, you have Shin Megami Tensei 4 or 5 for Nintendo, which was shown off like 5 or 6 years ago, and it still hasn't been released, and it still hasn't been shown off. So it's very bizarre. We'll see. Now, something I heard about here is a Demon Souls remake. I haven't really looked into it. I just kind of peripherally heard about it, but I have to admit, like, I am interested in it because I haven't played the original Demon Souls. I kind of wanted to, but I didn't want to deal with PlayStation 3 interface when it comes to that type of game, with the online and like I've heard about how Dark Souls 1 really improved over Demon Souls UI and general design. But something odd about this Demon Souls remake is that if it's supposed to be so major, why didn't Dark Souls 1 get such a drastic update? Is it just because it was exclusive and so Sony said that they'd handle the remake? Is that all there is to it? I guess we'll find out. I'm sure that they would at least hint at it, since Bluepoint hasn't shown off the game in around 2 years at this point, since Shadow of the Colossus. And last, I would like to say that I don't think we will be seeing VR games in the conference. But I would have to say that if we do end up seeing VR games, that they'll be showing off the PlayStation VR 2 in this. Because as far as I can tell, it seems like PlayStation VR has been fairly successful. I mean, especially considering the price point and the availability of the games. With the PlayStation VR 2, if it's backwards compatible, which it would just have to be, with backwards compatibility, there'd be enough of a library that I think people might either buy the first one or buy the new one, and assuming that you get like 2 or 3 games on the PlayStation VR right at launch, I think it's got a pretty good chance to really take off. And Sony's definitely put a lot of studios and time into showing that they're dedicated to the VR platform. With that said, I would far prefer a new PlayStation Portable system. The Vita wasn't great, but that was partly because no games were made for it, and the PlayStation Portable was good, period. I think it's one of the greatest systems of all time. So, we'll see. I don't hold any hope for a PlayStation Portable release, or a PlayStation Portable announcement, but you never know. So thanks for checking me out. Please support me on Patreon and check out my Twitch channel. It's all in the description and all that. Please tell me about how wrong I am in a week or 2 or in a year, whenever you want to watch this. And thanks for watching. Yep. And thanks for watching.